Video for Assignment 60, Math Lesson 8.9. Finding a percent of a number. In your math message, you were asked a question. It would cost $150,000 to rent a large amusement park for a private party. Would you rather have this price reduced by $35,000 or discounted 25%? Take a look at what you answered for this question. Now remember, a discount is how much you would take off of the price, how much you would save from the price, okay? So you'd have to figure out what would a discount of 25% be. Well, since 25% or 1/4 of $150,000 is $37,500, it would be a better deal to take the 25% discount. In your notebook, I want you to open to your next clean page and write the topic finding a percent of a number, because that's what you needed to do in order to solve this math message problem today. There are many strategies for doing this type of work, but we're going to talk about two main ways today, and we're going to put this one in your notes. This is how you would need to work it out if you were not allowed to use a calculator. Okay, so put this topic heading and then start writing down these notes. I want you to have these in your notebook. 1, change the percent to a fraction. Okay, for example, that's easy to do, remember, because any percent, like 47%, is the fraction 47 over 100. Okay, 47% means per 100. So 47 hundredths is equivalent to 47%. Or like 39% would be 39 over 100. 73% would be 73 over 100. Some percents we know in reduced form, like 10%. You probably all know that's 1/10. It's 10 over 100, but simplifies to 1/10. 75%, 3/4. 75 over 100 simplifies to 3/4. Okay, so the first thing you do is you change the percent to a fraction. The second thing you do is multiply by the fraction. Okay, so for example, let's say you're being asked to find 20% of 120. Well, you got to change 20% to 20 over 100, or that would be 2/10 or 1/5. I usually use the least, the lowest terms if I know it, and then multiply. 1/5 times, notice how I took 120 and I wrote it as a fraction, 120 over 1. So I got 1/5 times 120 over 1. I can just multiply that. 1 times 120 is 120. 5 times 1 is 5. So I get 120 over 5. And if I simplify that, it equals 24. So 20% of 120 is 24. It's just like doing fraction multiplication once you change that percent into a fraction. Make sure you have this copied down into your notebook before continuing on with the video. Now, in your math journal, open to page 277. Okay, and let's take a look at the top part of this page here. You're going to be getting some practice with the skill that we just learned. Take a look, we're at number 1. The Madison Middle School boys' basketball team has played 5 games. The table at the right shows the number of shots taken by each player and the percent of shots that were baskets. Study the example, then calculate the number of baskets made by each player. So your first job is to complete this chart. You're going to be figuring out how many baskets did they actually make. So you're going to need to take the percent and the shots taken and calculate that. Let's take a look at Bill. Bill took 15 shots. He made a basket on 40% of these shots. Okay, so we need to remember that 40% is 40 over 100, or 4/10, or even 2/5. 4/10 of 15, we would write 4/10 times 15 over 1. Okay, then you do your multiplying. 4 times 15 is 60. 10 times 1 is 10. So you get 60 over 10. 60 divided by 10 is 6. So simplify that. You can see that Bill made 6 baskets. Okay, so your job is to finish this chart. Okay, make sure you follow these, and then you're going to have some questions to answer about your results, but you need to finish the chart first. That's something you can do in a little bit. Now, let's take a look at some examples. The flu hit Roosevelt School hard. 40% of the 480 students were absent at least one day last week. How many students were absent at least one day? Remember that word of means multiply. 40% of 480 means 40% times 480. Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to change our 40% into a fraction. We were just working with 40%. 40 over 100, 4/10, 2/5. Okay, so I'm going to use 2/5 times, right, 480 as a fraction, 480 over 1. 2 times 480 is 960. 5 times 1 is 5. So I've got 960 divided by 5, and you get 192. Now, I was able to calculate that in my head, but I understand you might not be able to. It's okay to write a division problem over on the side, and figure it out. So your answer is 192 students. Now, that's how you figure it out if you are not allowed to use a calculator. But let's talk about if you're allowed to use a calculator. And if you are allowed to use one, hey, by all means, use it. It's really easy. If I'm using a calculator, I could think of the percent as a decimal. 40% would be 0.4, right? Because, well, it would be like 0.40, but I don't really need that. Remember, any percent is per 100 or per hundredth. So, like 73% would be 0.73, 99%, 0.99, 42%, 0.42, okay? Get the drift? So you can easily just punch in your calculator 0.4 or 0.40 times 480, push the enter sign, and you'll get 192. Pretty slick if you're allowed to use a calculator. But you need to make sure you know how to do it both ways. Okay, try this example, and you can use the page right in your notes after you wrote down the steps, okay, and solve this problem. The list price for a toaster is $45. The toaster is sold at a 12% discount. Remember, that would be 12% off the list price. List price means that's how much it's just normally for sale. What are the savings? Okay, so you need to figure out what are the savings if there's a 12% discount. Solve this problem without a calculator, then unpause the video. Okay, now you should have solved the problem without using a calculator. So you took your 12%, wrote it as 12 over 100, multiplied that by your 45 written as a fraction, 45 over 1. 12 times 45 is 540. I know that's not always easy to figure out. Remember, you can break things apart. That might help. For example, if I take 45 and I break it into 40 and 5, 12 times 40, I know 12 times 4 is 48, so 12 times 40 would be 480, and 12 times 5 is 60, so 480 plus 60 is 540. You can also, there's no rule that says you can't do a multiplication problem on the side. Write it out, 12 times 45, okay? I know it's not always easy to figure these things out sometimes, but you're capable of doing it, so don't be lazy about getting out of that work. All right, so 12 times 45 is 540. 100 times 1 is 100. So you got 540 over 100. or 540 divided by 100. Remember when we're dividing by multiples of 10, really we're like moving the decimal point for each one, so you end up with 5.4, which is $5.40. Now, if you are allowed to use a calculator for this problem, you can just think 12% as a decimal, 0.12 times 45. Your display will show 5.4, and we know that that means $5.40. Now, the other page that you're going to be asked to do in your journal, page 278, is sometimes tough for kids, but I'm going to show you it really doesn't need to be that tough, okay? You have a chart, and your job is to complete the last two columns of the chart. You got the estimated discount and the calculated discount. First, use your percent cents to estimate the discount for each item in the table below. The discount is the amount by which the list price of an item is reduced. It is the amount the customer saves. So you first estimate. What I would like you to do is actually just complete this whole entire column first before doing any calculating. Then you can use your calculator or pencil and paper to calculate the discount. Remember, you're going to have to round to the nearest cent if it goes out to more than 2 decimal places. Notice they said you could use your calculator or paper and pencil. Okay, so I recommend that you try some both ways because you do need to be able to do it both ways, or figure them all out with paper and pencil and then check them with your calculator, but be able to do it both ways. When you get older, you will pretty much either use your head and do it mentally, or you'll use a calculator, but you still need to be able to do it paper and pencil. So let's take a look. If we're talking about a clock item, which normally lists at $33, we get a 20% discount. Now I know that 20%, 20 over 100, 2/10, 1/5, okay? So if it's 20% is 1/5. If I think about dividing this by 5, I know that 30 divided by 5 is 6, or 35 divided by 5 is 7. So my discount is going to be somewhere in between $6 and $7. So I would estimate like maybe $6.50. Then figure it out. What is it? Okay. If I had to estimate a 7% discount, I would probably think 10%. Like, what would 10% be? 1/10. 60 divided by 10 is 6. So it's going to be about $6 off, or not quite that much, probably $5 off. So I would estimate a discount of $5. Then calculate it out. Okay, hopefully that helps you understand what to do on this page. Good luck, and we'll check your work tomorrow and compare your answers with a math partner so that you can see how you're doing.